So let me ask you something, and be honest. When was the last time someone talked to you about sex? Like, really talked about it? Not in a whisper, not with embarrassment, not in the past tense. Just real talk, between grown folks who've been around the block a few times. Because here's the thing, sex doesn't just stop after 60. Nope. In fact, for many people, things are just getting interesting. Yeah, you heard that right. We're talking about seniors getting frisky, and not in a jokey wink-wink kind of way either. We're talking about connection, desire, intimacy, and yes, actual pleasure. Because no matter how many candles are on the cake, your body doesn't stop wanting to feel close, to be touched, to feel attractive, to be wanted. And guess what? That's normal, that's good, that's human. So why does it still feel so hush-hush? Many folks our age grew up during a time when these conversations weren't just private. They were downright taboo. We weren't taught to talk openly about our needs, especially as we age. Somewhere along the line, someone decided sex was just for the young. Well, that someone clearly never met Shirley from Water Aerobics who just started dating again. And she's glowing, by the way. What's happening right now is actually kind of amazing. All over the world, older adults are rediscovering themselves. They're falling in love again, or maybe for the first time. They're learning that intimacy can be even richer now than at 25. Slower, yes, but deeper, more intentional, more honest, and that honesty is powerful. Now let's be real for a second. The body changes. We don't have the same hormones buzzing through us, and things might creak or need a little warming up. That's just part of the deal. But that doesn't mean the desire is gone. It just means we have to approach intimacy differently, smarter, more creatively, and more kindly. And let's not pretend we're doing this alone. I've talked to couples who've been married for 40 years, who are only now starting to explore what truly feels good to both of them. Isn't that something? After decades together, they still learn new ways to love each other. That's not a decline. That's a renaissance. For some, this rediscovery starts after a big life change. A divorce, the loss of a partner, retirement, or even just moving to a new place. Suddenly, the quiet gives you space to ask, what do I want now? And it turns out, many of us want connection, not just someone to play cards with, but someone who makes us feel alive again. One woman told me she hadn't kissed anyone in years, not since her husband passed. And then, one evening at a community potluck, she met someone just like that. It started with holding hands and talking late into the night. And she said, I felt like a teenager, only better, because this time I knew what I wanted. Isn't that beautiful? See, there's no expiration date on desire, and intimacy doesn't have to look like it did when we were younger. Sometimes it's just about lying in bed together, holding each other and talking about old memories. Sometimes it's exploring new things you may not feel safe or confident enough to try back then. And sometimes it's just laughing in the middle of it all. Because let's be honest, things don't always go smoothly, and that's okay. The point is, you're allowed to have fun. You're allowed to feel sexy, and you're allowed to want closeness. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Not society, your doctor, or that little voice in your head that says, isn't it too late for this? Because it's not, in fact. This might be exactly the right time. I know some of you are thinking, well, that sounds nice, but I'm not in a relationship right now. That's okay. This isn't just about couples. This is about you, your body, your needs, your right to enjoy pleasure in whatever way feels safe and meaningful, whether that's through touch, connection, or even just exploring your own sense of sensuality again. You deserve that. You really do. And for those of you in relationships that feel, well, a little routine, this could be the perfect time to shake things up. It starts with a conversation, a real one that says, hey, I miss being close to you. I want to reconnect, not just physically, but emotionally too. Sometimes that's all it takes to open a door that's been shut for years. If you're still here and this video is helping you, leave a quick comment below. I'd really like to know you're watching. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's a great time. Tap the bell so you don't miss the next one. So let's keep going, because the truth is, intimacy after 60 isn't just about romance or relationships. It's about rediscovering how good it feels to be seen, heard, and touched, not just physically, but emotionally too. And here's something people don't talk about enough: the emotional confidence that comes with age. When we're young, we're too busy worrying about what we look like, if we're doing it right, or if we're too much or not enough. But as we get older, there's a certain freedom that comes from knowing ourselves. You've lived through heartaches, parenting, loss, career changes, and let's face it, a whole lot of nonsense. And you've come out the other side wiser, stronger, and often a lot more grounded in what really matters. That confidence? It's sexy. And not in a magazine cover kind of way. I mean the kind of sexy that comes from presence, from comfort, from how you laugh at yourself now, instead of picking yourself apart, from knowing what makes you feel good to finally giving yourself permission to ask for it. I remember talking to a gentleman named Harold, not his real name, who said, "You know, I spent 50 years trying to be the man I thought I was supposed to be. Now, I'm just trying to be happy." And you could see it in him. He wasn't chasing anything anymore. He was showing up, open, real, and ready to connect. And wouldn't you know it, he just started dating someone new at 72. That kind of openness is magnetic. Now, let's be honest. Dating over 60 looks slightly different. For one, there's less drama, thank goodness. Most people at this stage of life aren't playing games. They know what they want. And the biggest surprise? Many folks are way more adventurous now than they ever were in their younger years. Not in a reckless way. More like, I'm not afraid to try something new because what do I have to lose? That kind of attitude? It can light a fire you didn't even know was still in there. And let's talk about physical intimacy for a second. Yes, the body changes. Things may not work exactly the way they used to, but here's the gift in that. It slows us down. Makes us more aware, more present. There's less rushing, less pressure, and way more focus on connection. And connection is what makes intimacy meaningful, not just the act itself, but the closeness you build before, during, and after. So if you're dealing with physical changes, dryness, erectile issues, stiffness, soreness, you're not broken, you're human, and there are so many ways to navigate that now. From open conversations with your doctor to products designed specifically for older adults, it's not something you have to accept and suffer through. But more than anything, what makes a difference is having a partner, or even just a friend, you can talk to honestly, saying things like, "Hey, this isn't working as it used to, but I still want to be close to you. Can we figure this out together?" That kind of vulnerability creates a whole new level of intimacy. And sometimes, all it takes is starting that conversation. That tiny act of bravery. Because chances are, they've been wondering about the same things too, but didn't know how to bring them up. And once the door opens, you'd be amazed at how much joy can pour in. And let me say this, there's no one-size-fits-all here. Some people want to jump back into dating, others wish to rekindle a long-term relationship, and some want to reconnect with themselves. Every path is valid. Every experience is worthy of respect. You don't need anyone's permission to feel sexy, or to want to touch, or to explore your own pleasure. You're not too old. You're not past your prime. You're just you, right now, and that's enough. One woman I spoke with recently, 68 years young, said something I'll never forget. "I used to think I had to stop feeling sexy because I had grandkids. But then I realized my age doesn't define my desire. I do." That gave me goosebumps. Because she's right. We've spent too long thinking we must shrink ourselves as we age. We should dress and act a certain way and fade quietly into the background. But what if we did the opposite? What if this stage of life is when we finally stop worrying about what others think and start living for ourselves? If you're still here and this video is helping you, leave a quick comment below. I'd really like to know you're watching. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's a great time. Tap the bell so you don't miss the next one. Let's keep going. So maybe today is the day you ask yourself a new kind of question. Not, is it too late? But, what do I want now? And how do I start giving that to myself in small, loving ways? Because that's where intimacy begins. Not in the bedroom, but in how you treat yourself, how you speak to yourself, how you allow joy, closeness, and curiosity back into your life, one step at a time. And whether that looks like holding hands on a morning walk, dancing barefoot in the kitchen, or just learning to touch your own body with kindness again, it counts. Every little spark you let back in, it matters. You know, the most beautiful thing about this whole conversation? It's that intimacy in later life doesn't have to look like anyone else's version of love or connection. It can be soft, bold, silly, slow, tender, whatever fits you best, because you've earned the right to define what joy, closeness, and sensuality mean at this stage in your life. Let's talk about joy for a second. because that word doesn't come up nearly enough in conversations about intimacy, but it should. So much of what we thought about sex and connection when we were younger was tied to performance, to expectations, to shame. But joy? Joy has no rules. Joy is personal. Joy is a giggle when things don't go perfectly. It's that flutter in your chest when someone touches your hand unexpectedly. It's the simple comfort of standing next to someone who knows your history and still wants to know your heart. I had a viewer write in recently. She's 74, and she said, "I haven't had sex in over a decade. But last month, I met someone at my bridge group. He told me I looked beautiful, and for the first time in years, I believed it." That moment of belief? That is intimacy. That's the spark we're talking about. And sometimes that's all it takes to shift how we see ourselves. So if you've been thinking, well, that's nice for other people, but not for me, I'm here to tell you, you're not excluded. It's not too late, and you're not too far gone. You're still here. You still deserve joy, connection, and touch if you want it. And by the way, what about that "if you want it" part? That matters too. This isn't about pressure. It's not about telling anyone they should be out there dating or being intimate. Some folks are perfectly content on their own, and that's just as powerful. The whole point is that you get to choose. You get to reclaim your story. You get to explore what lights you up, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. No shame, no rules, no apologies. You know what else I've noticed? The more we openly discuss this, the more others feel permission to do the same. We become mirrors for one another. Maybe you bring this up with a friend over coffee, and suddenly they open up about something they've kept inside for years, and that ripple continues. Because when one of us steps into freedom, it quietly invites the next person to do the same. And let's not forget, intimacy is healing. Whether you're rediscovering your own body, reconnecting with a longtime partner, or just allowing yourself to be touched with kindness, intimacy can restore something deep inside. It says, you're still alive, you're still worthy, you're still here, and you still matter. And you do. You matter more than you know. I'm not saying it'll be easy. Sometimes it takes courage to say, I want more. Sometimes it takes patience to relearn what feels good. Sometimes it takes forgiveness to yourself or others for the time that's passed or the chances not taken. But every step you take toward intimacy is a step toward wholeness. And that's something to celebrate. So, where do you start? Start small. Start gently. Maybe it's just allowing yourself to imagine pleasure again, to buy a new shirt that makes you feel good in your skin, to light a candle before bed just because it makes the room feel soft and welcoming, to look in the mirror and smile instead of criticizing every line. Or maybe it's booking a massage, joining a dance class, or writing a letter to someone you've missed. Or, hey, maybe it's joining a senior dating site and dipping your toes into those waters just to see what's out there. You don't have to know what the outcome will be. You just have to begin to say yes to possibility again. Before we wrap up, I just want to leave you with this. Every single day, you have the chance to reconnect with yourself, to build or rebuild intimacy, not just with others, but with your own heart. That doesn't require youth. It doesn't require a partner. It just requires you showing up, being willing, and letting yourself feel again. Because your story isn't over, not by a long shot. There's more laughter to be shared, more kisses to give, more lazy Sunday mornings to be had. And whether you're 60, 75, or 90, you can still discover new parts of yourself. You can still fall in love, even if it's with life itself. Thanks for watching today's video. Take a moment to comment below with one takeaway and how you'll apply it in your own life. We really do read and appreciate every message. If you found this content useful, like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might benefit. Your support helps us keep showing up for you. Thanks so much, my friend. See you next time.